Right. Good evening, brothers. Thank you for taking time to just the fourth session. We apologize for running a couple of minutes late. Just sorting out some technical issues. Just sorting out some technical issues. Sorry. Good evening, brothers. Thank you for joining us again for this fourth session of the Men Connect 2020 conference. We apologize for running late. We've just sorting out a couple of technical issues. Hopefully the program will run as expected, as we've done the last couple of times. Now, before we begin, I propose that we begin with a prayer. We've begun with our men's prayer for men, which we share on the screen. We use it to pray together, and then into the session. So I just apologize for that delay, and we can begin and pray in the best way that we know how to. So therefore, let's start in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Almighty God, grant that I may be faithful to this great responsibility you have endowed me. Make me a role model and a friend to my spouse and children. Help me never to be a stranger in my family because of the commitments at work or engagements. That I always appreciate the services I receive, and that I may show great love for my family. Lord, I pray that I may never fail to enliven and inspire my family and keep me away from provoking my children to wrong grant, Lord, that I may always be in a position to serve my family, recognition that love comes before treasure. Saint Joseph, pray for me to be a good ambassador of the gift of fatherhood. To me, amen.
Amen.
Right. Again, thank you, brother, for joining this session. We don't take your presence and your time for granted. We know you have other things to do, and that you've taken time just to. One of the things that we celebrate is the fact we can come together and converse and listen to some of the issues that we are currently going through, and some of the issues that impact how we relate on a regular basis. You may recall a couple of weeks ago, we began with a family reunion session. We talked about what it means for us men to spend more time in the family and how we could make the best use of that time. And we were led in that session with a speaker called Gerald Walter Fan. We then had another session called Financial Management from a Christian Perspective. And Dr. Oliver Kisaka took us how to navigate these difficult moments where we are seeing lots of job cuts, salary reductions, and if you're in business where you're not being paid what is due to you, and therefore you also can't meet your obligations. And session, and it was quite useful for a number of us, and we did appreciate the feedback that we received. Our session last week, we were lucky to have Job Watene, who took us through just how to manage change. And you may recollect, for those who are present, that Job had transitioned from chemical engineering to offering services, and he took us through what he went through that change as a bit of motivation that we could actually also go through a change at any particular point in our lives, especially around now. What it means for us to go through changes, and he gave us a couple of hints on what to look out for and the different stages of transition. This is the fourth week. We're lucky to have a speaker, well accomplished speaker, who's going to guide us through this session of Standing with a Brother. We use this session to reflect what it means around now to stand with other. Means, especially in these difficult moments, who you can rely on or whether you can be relied upon to guide us through this session. We sent out some questionnaires the last couple of days just to get a feel of what some of us may be going through, what we may be keen look at, and we have posed a couple of questions. And thank you for responded. We don't take that for granted, and it will be very useful for us in this session. Just to remind us as we proceed with the session, we always will be on mute to allow discussion flow. About 30 minutes to 40 or so, where Martin will guide us through this session, introducing just in a minute, just so that we see how that progresses. After that, we have a session where we'll respond to the questions which you have asked. We'll take some time just to pick questions, responses as you listen to the hours go through that bit. And then Obare will guide that session, after which we'll then come back and now, our speaker today is Martin Mburu. Martin Mburu has gone through an interesting transformation, if I could call it. Martin is trained as a social worker, but actually worked in marketing, sales, and distribution. So, when you get to hear him talk, you'll see the passion of a marketing and a sales person in that process. Very passionate speaker on any topic that you ask him to do. Transition from that and is now an educationist, where he's running a primary and a high school, and that keeps him quite busy. Martin is a Catholic and currently a parishioner at St. Paul's. He sits in boards of Catholic schools in the Nairobi Diocese. He also sits in the board of the Kiambu County Board, just to support that process of education. And is very passionate about education, especially education around boys and how that impacts on life. Works and is involved quite a bit on men empowerment program, and is been around just supporting men, talking about men issues, and is very resourceful in the process. He supports the Beacon Boys movement. That's a movement which was begun at the activist level to support boys, younger boys, on how to become the right kind of man, the right kind of example. He's married, he's got 3 daughters, and he's going to share quite a bit of experiences with us as we proceed. Then we have a number of men who are attending this session. In this session for the last couple of weeks, we have been looking forward to this, where we ask ourselves as men, how do we stand each other? This system we built up from last week, so we are quite keen to see. We have gone through all these challenges. Now, who are the men that I can stand with, or am I that can stand with a brother? So we have to take us through this session. We'll kind of just free to speak your mind as you do, guide as you do, guide us through this session. So I want to just invite you for the session so that you can pick from there, and then we listen, and then as we progress, we'll pick up the questions. So Martin, over to you, and Horrible. It's a pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you very much, Gabi. Thank you very much, Obare. Thank you, Kelly, for your invitation. I want to honestly thank you for this invitation. It makes us feel honored to be of use and to contribute to the welfare of men in our midst, in our archdiocese, in our families, in the world today. As we know, there are very many issues we talk about, but today we are talking about standing with a brother. And it's an interesting thing, because we talk only from one side sometimes, how it is to stand with a brother. But I will be talking about the reciprocity of that, because when you're talking about how brothers can stand with you, also ask yourself, do I stand with brothers? So I'll go through that. I will show a few things to start with, and this is all about numbers. This is all about me alone. Can I do it? Do I need assistance? And men, sometimes we shy away from sharing issues, from sharing our plight, from sharing our difficulties. And now when we are going through these COVID-19 manenos, we know a lot of things are happening, but they quite haven't happened. I know a lot of them will happen even later, because at the moment we are in the factory, we are in the war, we are in the workman's stores. We don't know how we are going to come out of this COVID-19. So allow me to share some things here initially. but I will not go through them as one by one. I'll just go through what I can, and then I don't know whether you can see me there, Kelly.
Yes, we can see.
Can you see my screen? Thank you.
Yes,
so we just go ahead. I want to start this off by provoking you, and I hope you will hear this. I'm sure this is something that probably you have seen circulating or in the internet. A short video of about 1.5 minutes.
It is very important for God's chosen people not to be left alone in the season.
I would like you to hear that again. I would like to hear that again. It's very dangerous for God's children to be alone in this kind of environment. Listen to it. I won't interrupt, and then after that, we'll see a few minutes.
It is very important for God's chosen people not to be left alone in this season. This video depicts exactly why. Right now, the lion is being surrounded by a pack of 20 hyenas, even though he is noted as the king of the jungle. Their goal is to weigh him down so that they can easily go in for the kill. Just as the enemy tries to overwhelm us with bills, attacks on our health, finances, and overall relationships. Too many of us don't understand that when we are left alone, we're easily defeated, especially when we have no help. God sent his disciples out 2 by 2 because the power of 2 of God's chosen people exceeds the power of 20 demons. Pray for your help, because when your help shows up, the odds change. As the commentator states, the power of 2 male lions could easily defeat the pack of 20 hyenas. I commission you, even now, to pray and press God for your help. And for those who are blessed with such a bond, never allow pettiness, pride, or outside people to take away the very thing that's meant to keep you alive in this season. When God has paired 2 together, nothing can defeat you.
I think that is a lovely start to our presentation in terms of what we experience. Imagine the power of 2. You could have seen that lion when he was in trouble in the world of hyenas. And there was a lot of trouble. He was alone, and although we know him as the king of the jungle, he is nothing when he is exposed to the troubles of the jungles, to the 20 hyenas. But just cutting the long story short, the help comes, a brother comes, stands by him, and the 2 of them are able to sort of fight off the 20 hyenas. You've even seen the reference to even the Bible, saying that even Jesus sent the disciples in 2s because 2 disciples could handle even up to 20 demons together, but one of them would not be enough. This just goes a long way to explain the power of brotherhood, the power of standing together, the power of assisting each other. Again, just to look at that, just a simple picture to show how this is. But I want you to look at the last person, the last brother there. Start thinking, is he standing with the brother, or is he watching as the brother probably is sinking? Where are we? Are we the ones pulling the brother? Are we the ones watching? In fact, sometimes we even are worse off. Are we the ones kicking the ladder of the brother? So I wanted just to provoke your minds, to provoke you as we go on these presentation today, and just to look at the different opportunities that we have to stand with a brother, and sometimes how we miss them. And while I was going through that, I saw some verses in the Bible that I thought would lead us today, and I would like just to read this to you. This is from Romans 5:3-5, saying, "We rejoice in our sufferings, Lord, knowing that sufferings produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts." Very powerful words, very powerful. Suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character. It gives us the character, it defines who we are. So today we will only do a few things. I want to give these as the considerations for today. One of them is coming to terms with the impact of COVID-19 now and the future. You know, when we talk about the post-COVID, we don't even know what we're talking about because we don't know when this is going to be. People are saying this is going to be with us for a long time. Schools are closed. We don't know when they're coming back. Shops are closed, most of them. People don't have work. Hotels have just started coming back. Businesses are closed. Transport is constrained. We still are constrained in our homes with bits and bits of curfew and cessation from one county to another. We don't know when this is going to come an end, and I know people have felt it differently. I know people have felt it in different ways, and we will be talking about that. We'll also be talking about now standing with a brother in these times, because we are all experiencing temptations, trials, tribulations. So we'll be looking at different ways of standing with a brother, and the need is real at this particular moment. Some of it is visible, some of it will come out later, but it's okay now. We will be talking about that later. And in the whole of these, you know, sometimes they say when they serve you lemons, make lemonade with it and enjoy. So also in the whole of this quagmire of COVID-19, we will be searching for what is our silver lining in the COVID-19 clouds. What is the clouds are dark, but is there a silver lining that we can pick? Are there things, bits and bits that we can learn from this one? And then of course, we will be looking at what is the light at the end of the COVID-19 tunnel. There must be something out of this. We can't just be suffering for nothing. And then we will be offering some tips on going ahead and how we can fight it out. So I'll just be going through this not point by point. But when we come to the impact of COVID-19 and the future, I mean, myself, I think I'm a very good example, because we've been going through tough times. As I said, I ran a school, and this is what we do for a living. In fact, today is a wonderful day because it is the day on which we were shut down. On the 17th of March, that was the last day that our school operated. Both schools that we ran have over 350 students. There is nobody in that campus. We have over 45 employees. There is nobody on that campus. This is trouble. When we built that school, we had hope. When we put the stones on each other, we had hope, just like all of you in your different businesses. I appreciate that a lot of people are even going through tougher times. We have teachers who are not teaching. We have engineers who are not working. We have people who have been laid off. All this is trouble that has been coming to our people. The key areas of impact we've seen. I mean, who could fathom a world without airlines? Who could fathom a world without any aeroplanes? There is all these internet things, and there is a gadget I use. There is an app I used to use when I used to fly around, looking for flights and all that. And sometimes it can show you the number of flights that are in the air. And it's shocking that sometimes when you use that to look at the number of flights that are in the Kenyan airspace, and the whole of Kenyan airspace, you see two. You see 3 airlines crossing. They're not even stopping. One's coming from South Africa going to somewhere else, probably Mizigo. You know, industries have shut down, businesses have gone bankrupt, have closed down, jobs have been lost, families are experiencing lots of pain. All these things are going on, and amazingly, imagine churches have closed down. Churches and general worship has been affected. Muslims, Christians, everybody, all of us have been affected. I remember when I was a mass server those days at a place in Mombasa, a church called Makupa Church. Na tulipokuwa mafundisho tulifunzwa na Father Alois Ngoma, tukaambiwa kuna kitu wakati mwili wa Yesu uko kanisani, kuna taa inaitwa pale, kuna taa inaitwa taa ya milele, na hiyo taa haizimi kwa sababu Yesu yuko pale. Telling you the importance of the body of Christ, the importance of church. And today, churches are closed. Christ must be very lonely. Priests must be very lonely, but we'll be talking about that later. Now, when we talk about the definition for post-COVID, as I said earlier, we do not know. We do not know. We will just bite piece by piece All I can say is that let us brace ourselves for the long haul. Let us brace ourselves for a time that is going to be elongated. In my industry, for instance, we've been told that we are going back to school in September. There's a lot of suspicion. All those kids will go back to school in September. We do not know. It could stretch to next year. Banks are on you. Everybody is on you. We do not know. So wherever we are, let us brace ourselves for a long haul. Let us see what to do. What is the new normal? When you keep on talking about the new normal, it is all confusing. Now, in the whole of that quagmire, therefore, we are all experiencing things differently because we are all in different depths of this. Some of us have not been affected. Some of us have been affected more. How do you become a dependable brother? And maybe it's good to take a moment back, as I said earlier, and to look and wonder, who is a real brother? Who is a real brother? How do we define a brother? How do we find who is your brother? Of course, you have your natural brothers, you have your sisters, you have your relatives, you have your neighbors, you have everybody around you, churchmates, you have CMA members, you have Chama members, you have friends from the pub where we used to go when things were open. All these are brothers. How do we define them in terms of how do we know when they have issues? And how is it going to be the pre and post? This is what we need to ponder and think about. Because from March to now, we've been locked in our homes. A lot of us have not met. We just talk sometimes on phone. A lot of times we don't even find each other. The question is, when we appear from our bunkers in our own defined post-COVID, what kind of brothers are we going to be? I was joking when I was growing up, there was something in the Daily Nation called Spot the Difference, and they would have two pictures which look very similar, and they would say Spot the Difference. If you are shown a picture of the brother that you left last time, you knew him, and he was buoyant, he had a job, he had a stable family, he had a car, he was happy, he was going to church, he was serving in different capacities, and the brother that you probably be exposed to, we do not know. Very quickly, a story is told of a warrior who had been in the war, and when they're coming from the war, they experience lots of things. And this brother, because he had been away for a while, he called his family, and he said, "Mom, Dad, brothers, finally, I'm being released. I'm coming home." Oh, there was jubilation. There was happiness. And they said, "When are you coming?" He said, "Before I tell you when I'm coming, I've got a request." And he said, "I'm coming with a friend of mine who we have been serving with here. And I hope you'll be able to understand him." They said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Because this brother has not been as lucky as I was. And during the war, he was hit and he lost his legs and he lost one arm. And I think he also lost one eye. But he has nowhere to go. He has no relatives. He can't find anybody. Can I come home with him?" And although they were very happy to have their son back, their brother back, their husband back, all of a sudden a problem came. They said, "Who is he? How do you know him? How well do you know him? How good is he? Just because you met him in Afghanistan or wherever in Cambodia?" He said, "No, he's a very good friend of mine. Please, I would like you to allow me to come home with him." And the mother or father would say, "Yes, brother, come with him. But remember, it's a lot of work. These people are never the same. We don't have facilities to look out for people disabled and all this kind of thing." And he said, "Okay, fine, but you just come. We will see what to do. But if you can let him go, please do." And to cut a very long story short, finally, he landed home with nobody. He was a brother. He was a son who had lost his legs, who had lost his arm in battle. But that glimpse gave him an idea of how different he was and how different his receivers were. We will find these brothers when we wake up. We will find these brothers when we go back to our works, when we go back to our jobs, when we go back to our businesses. We'll find brothers who have been to war. We'll find brothers who have been impacted in different ways. Will we receive them? Will we embrace them? Will we say, no problem, come, high five, we are still together? How will you be yourself? And I've said a few things here: loss of jobs, home shifts. As I was saying earlier, you'll find somebody who was living in an own house. Now he's living in a rented house. He was living in this house. Now he's moving to a smaller house to adjust his life. How do we take those? Maybe that person will be me. Maybe that person will be you. You see lots of shifts of life, school transfers. People coming from higher schools to lower level schools because probably they can't pay that school fees, which was so comfortably paid before. The company used to pay one check for a full year, or your business used to pay, or your salary used to be enough. Now you have to move kids from that school to a lower school, probably to a public school. How do we understand these, brothers? How do we reconcile with that? Loss of loved ones. There are people who have lost loved ones in this COVID and have not even had an opportunity to dignify their send-off. How do we interact with them? What about when they ask you, where were you when I lost my brother? When I lost my neighbor? Where were you? Oh, I was told the funeral is only for 15 people and you couldn't come. Bankers are on us. You'll find people whose faith has fluctuated. They are no longer trusting in God, because how can God forsake us the way he has? You'll be met with all these brothers from the war. I like to think and take a little bit of time to discuss our priests and our pastors, because there could be people who are not Catholics like us here in this group. But all of them are the same. They are our ministers in church. And when I speak to them, because I've got quite a few friends who are priests, and all of them, probably like us, we don't think about them a lot. These people went to the seminary for many years, 10 years to be ordained priests. They've read all the scriptures. They've come with 3 degrees. They've been to all the places. They've been taught the philosophy of the world. They've been taught theology, but they've never been taught how to run a parish without people. They've never been taught how to run a church with only a camera, or not even to have mass at all, because it's not all churches which are having masses or services. The priest's main work is to talk about the word of God, is to preach the word of God, is to give the holy sacraments, the Eucharist, every single day. Listen to confessions. See the sick and the old. Give them sakramenti ya mpako wa mwisho. Join people in holy matrimony. This is what they know how to do best. All of a sudden, that is all gone. These people are in the parish, have no families. Imagine how lonely our priests are. How will they be by the time we start going back to church, and we don't even know when that will be? And I want to say here and now that some of these problems, some of these issues are not necessarily financial. No. A lot of times it's not about financial problems. It's about insecurity. It's about loneliness. It's about being misplaced, being in the wrong place all of a sudden. Let us remember our priests in prayers. Let us visit them when we can. Let us call them. Let us talk to them. We have a lot of other things, and I put this one there just cheekily, because there are people who will also be made millionaires by COVID-19. How do we receive them back? Of course, we'll ask them, how did you make your millions when people were dying? I don't know how they will answer, but we will also need to talk to them. But of course, if it is pure Christian business, and I know we talked about this in one other talks, finance for Catholics, finance for Christians, but these are issues that are coming up. So let's look look at when we say standing with a brother, what exactly do we mean? I mean, a lot of brothers are quiet, but how do you start even looking at signs? Well, one would say because you know them, you would see when they start changing. Brothers will start getting lost. He's not coming for your CMA meeting. He's not coming where he used to meet sometimes. You need to look out for that brother. Ukiona hivyo kuna neno. Look out for that man. He's no longer coming for your meetings. Maybe he's even a lonely man. He is coming to church alone. He's not coming the way he used to come, accompanied by his beautiful wife and children. What happened? Where is his wife? It's time to start worrying and minding. Waswahili wanasema kimya kina kishindo. Akinyamaza sana kuna shida. What is happening? That man is very quiet. Even in your mtandao, in your WhatsApp, you haven't seen him comment for a long time. I think it's time you try to pekua him. Boss, sijakuona kwenye mtandao, kwani uko wapi? It's good to do that. There are also people you may not even realize. They are disguised. You know, they still look happy and smiley, but you must be deep. You must use an inner eye to look at how is he now. So we have to, there are very many others, but some of them. And as I said earlier, it's not always about financial solutions. Please do not be judgmental, because a lot of us are very quick to say, achana nae. But did you know even before COVID, but that guy used to spend money, eh? That guy, I'm not even surprised. Who are you? Who are you to judge people? Yule jamaa alikuwa anakunywa mpaka asubuhi. Yule jamaa, his family has not collapsed now. His family collapsed a long time ago. They just used to pretend. Boss, who are you? Let's not be judgmental. Let's assume it's COVID, it's not him, and we take it up from there. Let's not be judgmental. Let us use softer, longer term. Let's give good company. Let's pray together. Let's put them back in our prayer groups. Let's be together. Let's visit them. Let's make calls. Let's be on Zoom together. Let's be on Teams together. Let's be on WhatsApp, and when he lapses, bring him back. Visit them. And let's not make any demands. If he's not volunteering with information, take him slowly. You know he lost his job. So why are you keeping on asking? No demands. There is no explanation. No demands for finances. You know these things. If there is a contribution and he does not contribute, leave him alone. Vindu vichenjanga. Things do change, and they're changing. And as well as that, don't pity people. Be constructive. Don't pity, because men don't like being shown pity. Pity is not one of the ways of standing with somebody. It's being constructive and moving on together and offering solutions. And as I said, let's not talk about, let's talk to. That's backbiting. And the worst enemy of brother is loneliness. Let's give company where it's due. As I said earlier, we'll also be looking at the whole of this quagmire. Are there lessons to learn? Is there a silver lining in this very dark cloud of COVID-19? Maybe. And I like to say very many times, if you come out of this COVID-19 without a fundamental learning, you've missed an opportunity. With all these things happening, you've got to learn something. You've got to pick up something from this COVID and start searching it now if you haven't. There's so much happening. All these changes, there must be something you can pick up, either in your relationship, either in business, or maybe in endurance, but there must be something that you can pick from this. And if you don't learn, you've missed an opportunity. We used to have time, especially when curfew was curfew. Learn a new trade, learn how to cook something you have never cooked before. Sort out your house. Actually, I did sort out my house until I had a problem with my family, because I think I discovered in the 20 years that we have lived in the same house, about 30–40% of the things in the house are useless. Discovery. Learn those things. Clean up your house. Come out of COVID with something cleaner. Embrace change, boss, and enjoy the lemonade from the lemons. This is going to be for some time, so enjoy what you can. Look for the things that you can enjoy in it. And it's time for a bit of a culture change. It's time for, you know, I never imagined that day after day, week after week, I will be arriving home at 7. But sometimes we talk very personally. I'm not an early arriver at home. I'm not an early arriver. In fact, if I could be open, that has been an issue a lot of times with my wife. Where have you been? What time is this? Is this all about golf? Hata sasa imetoka golf kweli saa ngapi saa hizi bwana? The whole of this week you've come a bit late. That's about 10 o'clock, sometimes 11 o'clock. She's laughing at me now. She's saying COVID has come to sort us out. Since March, coming home at 6 o'clock. Now the point is I'm trying to make is I'm used to it. I'm used to it. Even when they increased COVID curfew now to 9 o'clock, by 6 o'clock, you start feeling like, ndashikwa, you've forgotten. Take time to know what kind of culture changes will you go through and try to start loving it. We've seen a lot of changes which we can learn from. We've seen technology. We never had this before. I never heard of something called Microsoft Teams. Never. Now we are here meeting on Microsoft Teams. Corporates have changed. People are not flying anymore. Work is still getting done sometimes. Maybe it was not all necessary to fly all over the world. Look at how the education has been hit. E-learning. If I could give my personal witness, since 2012, 2013, we've been singing about how to make our school more e-learning oriented. Zilch, nothing. We even started a website which had a portal inside there to try and bring people in so that when boys are on vacation, they can get into the portal, get their homework, parents check what is happening, teachers throw in work. It failed. We bought our teachers laptops and we said every week, twice, we must have an e-learning lesson. Nothing. Now, 90% of the school is on e-learning from all the corners of this country. We've been forced into it. Learn something out of this. Now I'm on Zoom, I'm on this one. Learn something out of this. Cashless transactions, wow. Working from home, amazing. From a personal point of view, this is a time to check out on what is happening to your family bonding. I looked at the questionnaire that was sent and I was very impressed, I must say, and I'm having a look at it here because in a lot of areas, marital status, okay, a lot of them, 84% of the people who responded are married. And how stable are they? Which word best describes your family relationship during COVID? 89% said they are stable or it has improved. A whole 31% say their relationship in the family has improved. A big hand to COVID. Let's not think COVID is all bad. Their relationship has improved. The others are saying it's stable. What about friendship? They are saying during COVID, 51% have remained stable and 16% has improved. So maybe it's temporary. Maybe when we come from the war and they see you don't have limbs and they see you don't have an eye, maybe they will change. But these are things that are happening, so it's not all negative. Have we learned how to save? Have we started thinking when it happens again, where is it going to catch me? Are we starting to think now we need to live a realistic life? Maybe I don't need what I have. Maybe I don't need 2 cars anymore. Maybe I don't need such a big house. Maybe I don't need this. Maybe, are we starting to rationalize ourselves? Learn something from this. And let us remember nothing is permanent. Our lives were permanent. We knew how to run them. Now we do not know. Is it time to diversify what we do? Are we putting all our eggs in one basket? Should I be doing something else so that when schools collapse next time, I don't sit here wondering the world has come to an end? All these are foods for thought on how we can use the COVID experience to make our lives better as we go forward to the next lives. Your personal organization. How have you been before? Have you been helped to be a little bit more organized? As I was saying, I've been sorted out a little bit. I come here quite early. I'm at home. We bond. We watch a movie a day, maybe with my daughters. I've known them better. What is it that you have learned? Now, I want to go into something which I'm not very sure how it will come out, because I know I'll be challenged by the deep theologians. And I want to say there is a light at the end of COVID tunnel. I'm not supposed to be quoting some people, but let me just quote anyway. Last week, we were having a meeting with a CMA group, the technical team that is trying to put up the technical college in Kamulu. You probably have heard about it. And we haven't had a meeting since March, since our failed Harambe, and we wanted to meet. So we said, let's meet. And where do we meet? We met at the clergy home. A few of us, the officials, just 4 of us. And when we went there, when we were standing there waiting to go into the home, who do we see passing? We see the cardinal himself, His Eminence coming in. So he waves and passes. That's not what I wanted to say. When we go to the meeting, he sends someone and says, tell those people to come and say hello to me. So we go and say hello to him, and of course he's a chatty man, and we sit with him. And then we start talking about COVID-19. And I want to quote what he said, because he said, this is so new. We have never experienced this. I don't know how Christ, in fact, he said, where is Christ? Uko juu unafanya nini? Shuka chini utusaidie, you know? But what he said is, I feel like I'm in my purgatory time. He said, I feel like I'm in my purgatory time. Purgatory time. Now, this is why I said I'm going to fight with theologians. I don't know what this picture means, but this picture is showing several things. This is what, when I Googled and I said, give me a picture of purgatory, this is what came out first, and this is what I'm showing you. This is what I'm sharing with you. And here you can see at the upper side, there is a bright light. There is a guy with a cross. I think that's my Lord Jesus Christ, surrounded by angels, and probably the spirits that have gone ahead of us who are enjoying in heaven. And then you can see there is a second section at the bottom, people suffering. And probably that's what the impression of this photographer or theologian or writer things about purgatory. And then you can see there are even other people who are actually on earth. They haven't even gone to purgatory. So there are 3 sort of groups of people there. So when the cardinal said that I am doing my purgatory time, this struck me and I started thinking, what does purgatory time mean? What does purgatory time mean? And for us, as Catholics, we know I don't want to be quoted having talked about purgatory at all, because I will not stand before anybody who has gone through theology to defend these. I'm just putting this to put a point across. I want to make that declaration. It is a state of temporary suffering for souls with God's grace before going to heaven. It has a condition. It's not just purgatory. Purgatory is not, by the way, purgatory is not for everybody. Purgatory is not for everybody. There are qualifications for purgatory, boss. Purgatory is a temporary place. You suffer for purification. Who goes there? These are souls with God's grace, people who die in the grace of God. Not everybody. A brother who dies in the grace of God, that's the one who is considered for a place in purgatory. And what is the objective? It's purification towards heaven. So there is hope at the end. And this is what I'm calling the light at the end of the tunnel. But when you see, when you read about purgatory, the souls in purgatory do not just exist by themselves. They also depend on other brothers. They depend on brothers living to pray for them, rosaries and prayers, because those give them more opportunities to quickly finish their suffering in purgatory and proceed to heaven. So even in purgatory, you need brothers who know you. You need brothers to pray for you. And when he said we are doing our purgatory time, I said, probably COVID time is all about purgatory time. So I wish I was a preacher, I would have said, I want to declare to you that there is hope after COVID-19. Because it's symbolically like our purgatory time that we are doing. We are suffering for a reason. It's not because we were bad people. We were working hard. We had jobs. We had families. We were working for our wages. We were not thieves. But we got into this all of a sudden in the blink of an eye. A simple disease just came and declared us nonsense. Everything closed down. Markets closed, everywhere closed. So we want to compare it with that in a symbolic way to say, yes, we are now doing our purgatory time, but we are doing it with hope that at one point it is going to purify us with the learnings that we do from COVID time. And then we will be able to go into the life after COVID, better shape, better people, better believers, better family people, better finance organizers, better Christians, better Catholics, better men, better CMA members. Now, therefore, because there is hope, you've got to use the moment that we have. You've got to make it a memorable COVID-19. You've got to remember it, because when they had the Spanish thing in 1918, people remember them. People remember things. What are you going to be remembered for? Are you just going to let COVID-19 experience just pass you like that? No. So I want to propose these few things. That number one, you must realize you're not alone. You are a brother because you have brothers. Take advantage of that. In the lion story that we saw earlier, you saw there were 2 lions. Which one are you? And they normally take chances, they change positions. It's my time to consider some major personal changes. What changes are you taking out of this? I can't give up. This is what I want you to say. You can't give up, because there's no giving up anyway. Because even if it means restarting afresh, we will do it. Paradigms have shifted and everything has gone back to zero. Let's start afresh. Once COVID bitten, twice shy. We've been living probably in a comfort zone, doing the same jobs, getting good salaries. What about if it comes to an end? You've been taking advantage, not advantage, taking for granted your stable family. It could collapse. Let's learn from that. Once bitten, twice shy in COVID. You must say that you will expedite your purgatory time with dignity. Suffer with dignity. Take what you can with you to the next life. And I want you to say you will stand with a brother in also corporate and policy senses. Sometimes we don't do that. Some of us are in good positions of power, positions of authority. Do something for brothers when you get back. Start some programs to support brothers, not just in the estate, but also in the professional work. If you have some authority, do something. Spend some money to help brothers, even if it is in a psychosocial programs that you have. And finally, I want to suggest to all men that you say with me that you will create a memorable COVID-19 project, whatever it is. When your children grow up, when you grow yourself old, you will come back and remember, I did this during COVID time. Whether it's cutting your fence and restarting afresh, do your loan again. Do something. And if you can't do anything, plant a tree. Plant trees. And then you'll always come back and say, during this time, I planted a tree. You became productive. So make it memorable for yourself and enjoy COVID as it lasts. May God bless you. That's all I wanted to share with you. May God bless you. May you be firm. May you stand with each other. May you be the brother that you want the other brother to be. And may God bless you. And finally, over to you, Bwana Obare. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Martin, for those amazing perspectives. You know, it's difficult to come from such a high pitch, very well pitched case to a low tone, but mine is basically to try and sample a few of the questions that the men who are listening may have. And therefore, just even before I go to the questions, I think you've said very, very memorable things that can really take us very, very far. I remember as I was also checking through your topic, I saw a quote by Martin Luther King, who says that, you know, we can actually, you know, prosper together or we can perish together as fools. So it's a choice we can make and say, how do you want to do or what want to do to move forward? So basically, probably just asking 2 or 3 questions to you, Martin, and you can address them. The first one is on brotherhood, and there are people who have actually been hurt because of purported brotherhood, and they really are finding it difficult to heal from those brotherhood, and therefore they are affecting how they relate to the next relationship of brotherhood. What would you tell those brothers who are really hurt because of a perceived brotherhood that never was? Number 2 is about role modeling. You know, as brothers, we seem to sometimes struggle to talk about models, role models in the world. Even if you think about the great men of today, great families within our surrounding, even our own neighborhood, people are struggling to either see the role models or them being role models. Maybe you can say a word or 2 about it. Then lastly is an issue of holding each other into account. How do we ensure that we don't become these flamboyant, merry makers, but actually that if something goes wrong to a brother, we are able to hold each other into account? Maybe you can take those 3 and then we shall progress. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much. When we talk about purported brotherhood that didn't work, you start wondering, was it even there before? And I think the best thing is to look at what foundations are you made of? What is your friendship based on? And if your friendship is based only on soft things, on good things, on happy moments, on happiness, then you probably don't have a friendship, because when you're shaken and when you get into a little bit of a turmoil, then that friendship comes collapsing. You must ask yourself, the friendship that we are in, is it a dependable one? Is it somebody I can go crying to if I have a problem with my family? Is it a problem is it somebody I can share my insides with? And you must also ask yourself the other way around. Since we've been friends with Kariuki, with John, with Obare, with whoever it is, when was the last time actually he came and told me, today I just want us to sit down and talk. I have an issue. I would like you to advise me. You know, when was the last time that? And if he hasn't, then he doesn't value you. It's not because he's a saint, he's never had problems. When he has real issues of maybe investment, marital issues, job decisions, leaving job, going to another, he has people he goes to. And when things get hot, you will not stand there. So I think it is to ask ourselves and to audit our friendship before we call it brotherhood. What is our brotherhood based on? Is it a brotherhood that we know each other? I know very many brothers who don't even know each other's families. There is no friendship. I know brothers who do not even know. You've never been to their house. You've never been to their house, and I can tell you that is dangerous, because if you don't know somebody, you just leave each other 9 o'clock. Okay, baba, but tuonane kesho. But you don't know how his wife is. You don't know where his wife works. You don't know where the children are. You don't know when they're in problems. You need to re-audit and see whether you are in good friendship, so that by the time you think you've been let down, by the time you think it was not a good friendship, you will also know how you got into it. In terms of role modeling, this is a difficult thing. This is a difficult thing, because I don't think we are serious anymore as humans and as men. I don't think we are serious anymore about role modeling. I'll tell you something, even basically as a Catholic, when somebody comes and appoints you to be the godfather of their child, you must ask them questions. Why me? Why me? What have you seen in me that you'd like me to impart on your son? Is he a serious Jama? Or is it just because we are good friends? Because that's what is happening today. And if you've been a godfather once, when is the last time that you saw your godson? Or was it actually last time in church? Start there. What kind of a role model are you? But the big problem is also What kind of role models did we grow up with? Even from parents. Like I said, because we're in education, we see amazing things in schools. We see situations where we see is not only a role model that is not in that family, but there isn't even an authority. Forget about role modeling. There is no authority. Because when a parent calls you and says, I would like you to come and talk to my son about these things that a parent should talk about, he's not in control completely. And there's an example I keep on giving and saying. There's a parent who came to school once, was returning the child to school, and in our school, forget about my hair now, is because of COVID. But in our school, all boys, when they are reporting to school, they must cut their hair. They must not have any hair on them, very little. And this boy comes, he's not cut his hair. So of course he's told, boss, where are you going? So you know our rules. And he's told, put your bags here, go back to Juja town, cut your hair and come back. And if you don't, go back home. And I was there marveling, and the father was there, and the father just burst out laughing. And you know what he said? Nilikuambia, hii shule utaingia na hiyo nywele. You see now, you've given up. If you do not have enough authority on your child to say, you're not getting into this car, you're not getting to Matatu with me, you're not going with me to this school, if you don't cut your hair, what kind of role modeling do we expect? So I think let's look at each other in that sense. And I think we need, I think role modeling needs to be trained now. When you're talking about holding each other to account, I think this is related to the top one. This is when we release ourselves to our brothers, because you must also be willing to be held into account before you hold other people to account. And that's why we go to church together. That's why we belong to CMA together, but we have a code. And there are standards that a basic CMA man must keep. And you must allow the others to come and say, why is it happening this way? So in terms of holding each other account, it comes from trust, that I can actually allow you to intrude into my life and come and tell me here is not going on right. And if you cannot stop a guy who is your friend from doing something that you know is not good, and he listens to you, even at the very risk of losing him as a friend, then there is no friendship. So you must be able then to hold each other into account, but then you must have a code of conduct which allows you that latitude.
All right, thanks, Martin. And maybe just to ask the final round of questions. The first one is, maybe you can share your experience, and I know you've really worked in diverse areas, done very many things, and actually brought brothers together. What would you suggest for us as brothers to be doing together that can actually strengthen and enhance the brotherhood that we have? Because it's very critical to think of the activities that will bring us together. Maybe you can give your example on that. The next item is what I want to call, the online brotherhood. So when you have a funeral, I send you an M-Pesa. When you have something, I give you a phone call. Once in a while, we catch up as boys. And even this thing called the boys club, whereby people chat very crazy things online, which we have seen, and we seem to have so much fun out of this kind of things. How can we change that to be a positive thing? Because we cannot avoid chatting online and sharing ideas. How can actually we make it more interesting, more exciting, to those kind of things we laugh at? Maybe those two, and then as you respond to those ones, you actually feel free to also give your concluding summaries and remarks. Over to you, Martin.
Okay. I think e-brotherhood is fine, but it's got to be controlled. It's got to be controlled because imagine a situation where every time I have an issue, you send me 1,000, you send me 20 bob, you send me money, but your physical presence is not there. One day when you have an issue and you just receive money, and you're with your dead mother there, and you're with your dead brother, or whatever it is, a funeral or a wedding of your son, then you realize what money is all about. Money is nothing. Money is nothing. Money alone does not have any warmth at all. money alone does not have a warmth alone. If the money that you have cannot buy you the warmth of friendship, the warmth of a home, it is not money. So when you come to E friendship, E brotherhood, E togetherness must only be. Unajua zamani walipokuwa kwenye KBC wanasema salamu ndio nusu ya kuonana, because they said the salams in the radio were very good, but they were not replacing the idea of kuonana. They were saying ndio nusu ya kuonana, but kuonana was still the main thing, because you've got to see each other. So even when we glorify this brotherhood and all that, we've got to be physical friends. We've got to be there. And I think, in fact, I would rather spend that money getting onto a matatu, getting onto a bus, and just go and sit with you and tell you, Pole, physically, and you see me, and I don't write anything in that book, than sending you that 500 bob. That's even better. The getting together. There is a time that our friend got sick and he was operated on, and we didn't know until it was a bit late and he had already been operated on and he was at home. And people are saying we did not even changa money. And somebody said, this thing of changa money is the one that is spoiling friendship. Forget about changa money. We don't need it. That guy has already gone through the operation. Let's just get into a car or cars, go there, we choma nyama on the way, we buy a few sodas, whatever, and then we just go and sit with him a whole day. Jazz him up, make him laugh, make him warm. That is friendship. When you're talking about boys clubs, okay, they are mistaken, because sometimes what people talk about boys club may not be necessarily what it is. But I think when you talk about even what happens, and even sometimes what happens in the groups, there are people who are quite sensible, and you have so many groups that you've seen that, and there are people who are absolutely terrible. Who are absolutely terrible in terms of what they show, in terms of what they pack. And I think you have to have a code of conduct and say, this way we don't. But there are people who are light on it and they don't mean it, and they just throw it there for it. So sometimes it's just the group to decide what is it. But if the boys club is not productive in any way, if for a long time you've just been meeting and just joking and nothing is coming in front, and as I said earlier, you're not even helping each other with a friendship, and you're in the whole of that friendship, none of you has been a best man of the, or your son has never been a best man of the other one, and your children do not know each other. You need to re-audit your friendship. And in terms of together experience, I think what I've seen work most is families. You've got to get families involved. The only thing that works in a firm friendship of men is when their families are involved. When their families are not involved, that's when things like suspicion, mistrust sneaks in. But if the families are involved and your spouses and your children know them, this is the best time. And it doesn't warrant to be very expensive. Even if it's just saying, this Sunday, you guys come to my house, let's have lunch together. The same lunch we would have had separately, let's have it together, or let's have somewhere lunch. This togetherness of family is what I have seen working more. So a lot of times we try and say, now let's every so many months, let's bring the families together. Every so many, I think those families, those friendships grow more than just the ones that are based on just the plain male friendships. So those are the ones that I see working more, and they live longer because the family brings in some sense. And I think they also call you to an accountability of, okay, sometimes it's not healthy in terms of comparison, but they do so that you can see what is happening on the other side. How do they compare? How are your children working? Your children are going to university together. They are helping each other. That is what I see working. And those friendships, even for the children, live longer. And this anchoism works harder, because then they know my dad and this guy are very good friends. If they have any problem, then they can go to them. And things do happen. And in case of the loss of somebody, where do your family turn to? Who knows this family? So you need to involve the family in all this. So as I finish, I want to first of all say thank you very much for this invitation. It gives me a lot of pleasure to share whatever experiences that we have in life. And standing with a brother sometimes is a difficult thing, but it's something that we ought to learn how to do. But my challenge more of the time is not standing with a brother, is are you credible? Because people do not just stand with you. People stand with you because they value you. How do you build your value base to be valued by your brothers as well? I would like to end there, and I want to thank you very much for this opportunity to share with fellow men. May God bless you.
All right. So thank you very much, Martin. I have honestly benefited and learned a lot about brotherhood, and I want to say thank you for standing with Upperhill. You've always stood with us, been there when we need you, and I think that's a great thing. And I think the lessons I've taken myself, I want to challenge myself that I want to take one or two things and also ensure I practice them to improve my brotherhood. And I hope that at one time I also become a role model, or I'm able to stand for somebody when they actually need me most, as opposed to always expecting others to stand for me. So thank you very much. I want to hand it back to Gabby to give us a concluding remarks, and then we shall close. Over to you, Gabby.
All right, thank you, Maria, and thank you, Martin. That's been a very insightful session. Even before we get into the summary of just what you've gone through, I want to request that we just complete the question on the screen. Let's just take a minute just to complete it. This questionnaire helps us to get feedback and to get to know what other topics you'd want us to complete. So I kindly ask as we take a minute or less just to complete the questionnaire. That's quite useful to us. It guides us on what to do, how to improve, and what other topics to consider even as we proceed. So again, kindly just take about a minute to complete the message, the questionnaire, and then you see how to progress. So I'll just give us about a minute or so just to complete it, kindly. Even as you complete the questionnaire, just be assured that we will not share any of your information. This is just purely for the purpose of just improving and getting feedback from the sessions and helping us to plan how to proceed in future sessions. So just feel confident that whatever you share here is purely for the purpose of just improving this program and not for sharing. All right. So even as you complete the questionnaire, I'll just quickly just do a summary of what you've gone through. I think it's just been extremely a good time to listen to Martin, and I'm sure those of us who are here have learned a bit from this session. Just the beginning of where we are guided about the story that 2 lions are better than 20 hyenas. And many of us have seen when a lion is exposed to hyenas, there's a very good analogy of what happens to us as well if we are by our own. So we need to just factor in that part of being with each other. We're reminded how Jesus also sent disciples in 2. So there's a reason why they were sent in 2 and not 1. He must have been aware that things which we need to be aware of, and that we are asking for brothers that we can walk with. Martin took us through which I remember very well, is Romans 5:3-5, especially where it says endurance produces character. I think for many of us, this is where true character comes out, when you're really in a lot of stress. So at this moment, many of us have formed things that we didn't know that we could have as character. So we're grateful for that particular example. We heard about the story of the returning warrior. And when we get out of this COVID war, as we now know it, what kind of warrior are we going to be after this process? And when you come back with wounds, or when our friends come with wounds, are we going to receive them, or are we going to be received? So again, a very, very important example for the mentor for us to consider that there may be some friends of ours who will come back with wounds and need to be there present to receive them back without any conditions, because we'll be impacted differently from this corona situation. The worst enemy of a brother is loneliness. Many times depression comes because of loneliness, and we don't know who to go back and talk to. So let's open up and be the brother who addresses the issue of loneliness for somebody else. Let's also need to go back and share, but we do not have this where we are holding everything in our hearts and then it weighs us down. There's always a silver lining in these lessons, and we're taken through quite a number of them, especially even the example which we shared where we are saying up to 90% or 9% of us who did the sample say that within the family or improve relationships. That's a silver lining that we need to take cognizant of as a result of this COVID experience. And it's good that we're seeing that kind of progression in our families. COVID must be here for a reason. It cannot be here and not mean anything for us. So there are a couple of things that we can do to remember that this COVID could be memorable for positive reasons. Let's remember that during this moment, not alone. The story of the two lions comes to mind immediately. Let's remember that this is the moment for us to consider making personal changes. Some of them may need to be major, in terms of what we need to do in our lives going forward. And there's no room to give up. Men don't give up. We keep on trying. I've friends to work with. So let's use this moment to give up. And then you are reminded to probably leave the comfort zone. You can't do the same thing and get different results. So getting out of the comfort zone is going to be critical for us. And also, when we suffer, let's suffer with dignity. Men don't like people, so let's suffer with dignity. We suffer for a reason, and because of that, we come out better at the end of the process. And be that brother who can be there to stand with another brother. Somebody somewhere is looking for a shoulder to cry on or to lean on. Be that brother who somebody can lean on. Be that brother who can give another brother always. And therefore, we make this particular project of COVID-19, this moment, memorable. I can remember during that COVID-19, this and this came out of this experience and it becomes memorable for everybody. Martin responded to a couple of questions around role modeling and holding each other to account, and especially where one has been let down. We are going to go through different phases, but we need to ask ourselves, are we the role model? Have we been influenced maybe by how we grew up or how we socialized, and therefore our modeling norms are not what they need to be? So we need to reflect that whatever we do, that we're the best role model that we can be, and we share the example. One is asked to be a godparent, or is a godparent. What does it mean, or what has been seen in you, and what do you expect of your godson in that process? Because that's a bigger calling. And to take this friendship work, the conclusion was just to make sure that let's get our families involved. If we have families, for those of us who are married, or are courting, or have people who are close to us, let's bring families into this process. Then we have a bit of accountability, and that helps us. So that was quite a useful session from Martin and granted. They're most grateful for us. As the program, next week we are going to talk through spirituality and mental well-being. We're guided by Father Selvam. Father Selvam is very passionate about the topic and is going to be quite insightful. You're going to really enjoy it as well. We want to just conclude by thanking Martin. Thank you for your time, for your preparation, and for the insight that you shared with us, and for some of these personal experiences, and just to tackle some of the issues that many times we don't want to tackle or maybe you're not aware of. And it's good that you raise them up in a particular manner and just discussing them in the company of men. There's nothing as good as discussing amongst men issues that you know affect you, and that you realize actually I'm not alone, and where I'm struggling, maybe I'm not the only one, and there could be a solution out there with the brother. So we are grateful for that issue that you raised them, and just how the passion that you demonstrated in this particular topic. The short notice that we asked you to present, we don't take it for granted, Martin. So I hope God continues to bless you and your family. I want to apologize to all of us that it took a bit longer. I think the nature of this topic was quite key, that it was important for us to discuss it at some level of depth. If the question that maybe we didn't address, continue raising them. We'll share them with Martin and get back to and share them. Shortly, we're going to share videos that we have covered so far. They're going to be shared through one of our colleagues who's working. We are obviously using Microsoft Teams, and we are grateful that you've got this facility from Microsoft for free. And kindly invite your friends, your brothers, your colleagues, your neighbors in the next session, so we can continue sharing as men to see how do we maneuver this particular process. And then when we get out of this particular battle as warriors, we come out with at least wounds, or where we are wounded, we have brothers to work with. So we appreciate your time, we appreciate your commitment, and therefore continue to give us even as we work on this process. I want to request that even as we conclude with our Lord's Prayer, where we'll pray together, and then we'll pick it up from there. Those of us who have not completed the questionnaire, kindly just complete it, and then we'll share feedback and see how to best improve this program. We thank you for your time. We thank you, Martin, significantly, Obari, Richard, and Kelly, everybody else who's working to make this process a success. Thank you very much. So I request that we conclude the prayer, and then we meet next Wednesday at 8:30. So we'll all pray our Lord's Prayer from wherever we are, and I kindly ask that we vocalize it so that we conclude the prayer in the best way that God intended. So we'll begin in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you. Good night, and God bless you. Have a great week. Regards to your families as well. Bye-bye.
God bless you too. Thank you.